AskReddit by VPR Zero Love. What's the simplest skill that you've seen someone refuse to learn? Listening. It's surprising how many people just wait for the other person to stop talking. Also surprising how many others don't even wait that long. Conversation in general. Both parties need to listen, sure. But the talking party also needs to leave space for the listening party to reply. People just rambling on are not holding a conversation, they're holding a monologue. Leave some space every once in a while. It always baffles me how many people who, essentially, spend their entire life using Excel refuse to spend any time actually learning how to use Excel. I once discovered my boss was using a calculator to figure out the values to input in specific cells. Like putting 6358 in A1 and 562 in A2, then using a calculator to add the values together to input the total in A3. I tried to show him literally the simplest function equals a 1 plus a 2 and he refused. Said he liked doing it by hand. He also refused to use tabs and made each month a new file and had to manually import the previous months, years, and YTD data. 95% of this guy's job was creating reports in Excel for his boss. I could have done his entire job and done it better, with more actionable info and trends, in about 10 minutes a day. He was paid obscenely more than me. His boss thought my boss was indispensable. I hated this man and his boss with a passion. I was showing my elderly neighbor how to cut and paste on her laptop and she was like, "No, this is too complicated." I work in a pharmacy, so lots of old people who are registers have a pin pad with a screen like most other places. It literally tells you what you need to know and what they have to do. Sign here, yes or no here, put your card in, take your card out. The amount of people who just refuse to read the directions or listen to my verbal instructions is insane. And you usually cannot get through the transaction without the tasks being completed. I try to have patience and remember that these are the people who grew up with lead paint in their walls and lead gas and eating glue or whatever, simply so I can keep my sanity. Just googling things. I feel like most people would get their problem solved if they just googled their issue. Yes, there might be issues with this sometimes, but it's a skill like everything else. Instead they show up on Reddit asking the most basic questions. Was working at a pizza place years ago and they hired a 16-year-old kid. I was making pizzas while he was being trained. At one point the manager asked the kid to sweep up the dining room, then went into the office. The manager came out 10 minutes later and all the kid had been doing was moving trash around with the broom, not sweeping it into a pile or picking it up. The manager asked if he had ever held a broom before and the kid said no. The manager then tried teaching him how to sweep, and after the kid spent a minute watching the manager clean with a very stupid look on his face, the kid, he said, "It's too hard, I quit," and walked out. It's too hard, sweeping the floor. Many years ago I had trained a new guy to close at Subway, which involves mopping the floor at the end of the night. Send the dude out to mop the lobby while I work on dishes. He can't fuck up mopping, right? So I'm doing my thing and go up front to grab some more dishes and I see him pushing the mop in front of him and then walking over the wet spots he just mopped. I used to work with a woman who called herself the paperwork queen. She would print out plans sent to us by builders, then rescan them in and save them. I tried telling her you could save the plans from her email straight into a folder, no printing and scanning required. She looked at me like I was crazy and said she will do things her way and I'll do things mine. That one is really stupid. Reading. So many issues at my job are because people refuse to read labels and instructions. Yes, they are both read, they're still two different things. The printer needs paper. Says so right there. Open tray 2 and restock. I was tasked with documenting how to use a new software at work. No one will read my instructions. Boss was flabbergasted that I haven't done any of my own work in 2 weeks, but I've been answering an incessant stream of Sarge. How do I every 3 seconds from all of my coworkers? 75% of the instructions are screenshots with red circles and arrows telling you exactly where to click. Not to mention that I had to become the id liaison, because every time they tried to do something and couldn't immediately figure it out, they'd put a help desk ticket in. It put their foot down and told my team I have to evaluate every situation, determine if it is actually a bug, and only I can create tickets. Cook even the most basic thing to feed his kids. He rather orders takeout. I don't get that one. Like, there's a lot you can make by just knowing how to boil something in a pot of water. Also, as a student, my go-to dinner is literally just rice with mixed in vegetables, and I usually chuck in some rosemary or thyme to make it more interesting. If I have money, I might even buy some pre-shredded roast chicken and chuck it in as well. Honestly, just putting herbs into the boiling water will give you some pretty decent food. Using more than one computer window at a time, or even alt-tabbing between them. I recently showed a coworker the tab function. He's 60, has dyslexia, and shakes like a leaf. The tab key is his new best friend for hopping between areas on a computer screen, so he doesn't have to fight with a mouse to get the cursor in the right typing clicking spots. Confidently own your mistakes honestly, be able to apologize without cowardice when necessary. I've tried so hard to hammer this mantra into my kids' heads. I really hope it sticks. 1. Own it. 2. Apologize. 3. Learn from it. 4. Move on. Being courteous. The I don't owe anyone anything mindset has been a disaster for the human race. Sneezing into your arm while in public. I have a friend who refuses to do this. He says he doesn't know he's about to sneeze, so he can't cover it. It's so disgusting. Explaining things. If I explain something and someone tells me they don't understand, I explain it again, but frame or phrase it differently. I will never understand why so many people think just saying the exact same words again in a more exasperated, condescending tone is at all effective. A lot of people just really suck at conveying information. Basic car maintenance. I'm not talking oil change, headlights, air filters, etc. I'm talking how to air up tires, fill up washer fluid, check oil. Had an ex who didn't know how to do any of this and wouldn't let me teach him how because it's not necessary. I worked with a client that casually mentioned that she did not know how to put gas in her car. Her husband would do it for her. She was in her 30s. This was close to 20 years ago and it still haunts me. Just the other day I interacted with a woman who absolutely refuses to learn how to tell time in the 24 hours format for no reason at all, just because. On that note, people who can't read analog clocks. Number of times I've had people ask what's the time even when I've pointed out the clock on the wall in the room is ridiculous. Which direction north, south, east and west are. Also how to read a map. If there's ever a disaster with our cell phone internet systems, there's going to be a bunch of lost sobs out there. I think the real struggle would be getting a map lol. Used to keep one in my car, but not for years now. So gotta beat the rush to buy one in the gas station and hope the card reader isn't down in this scenario. Turning down their phone volume. Or use headphones. Chewing with your mouth closed. I did this as a kid teen unconsciously. Turns out I had massive deviated septum problems and just couldn't breathe through my nose. It was normal for me to breathe through my mouth. Once I got surgery, I was shocked when I found out what breathing actually was. I mean, it didn't fix it 100%, but it was a massive improvement. Back in high school, some 20 years ago, a friend of mine was getting a new car for his graduation present. He chose a 2003 Mustang Cobra, the new supercharged one. Lucky guy. I decided to try and teach him to drive a stick shift. He wouldn't listen to instruction and kept stalling it, getting increasingly frustrated each time. Next day he decided he wanted a truck instead. Your friend sounds like it. I was once training a host to do Togo. I was showing him all the modifications on the tickets that print out and he said, and I quote, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that." Like bro. That's most of your job. What do you mean you won't do that? It's literally reading and putting together the things you've read. And he knows how to read. It didn't make any sense and he was put back into hosting. He also no longer works at the establishment. Cooking rice. It's funny, because I am an otherwise very good cook, but I always struggled to get rice to the right consistency. So I bought a rice cooker. Deleted. Especially for pedestrians, this is so irritating to me. No grandpa, I will not wait at the intersection just because you might wanna turn. I will step in front of cars that don't blink and walk extra slow. I think those people don't even know why I'm doing this, but it brings me way too much joy. Cooking. One of the oldest skills necessary for survival, and some people just can't be asked. Reading. My younger brother is 10 now, absolutely refuses to even try reading. Uses text-to-speech and voice-to-text for everything he does. That makes me so sad. Books were my life as a kid. I still can't get enough. Computer stuff. At my last job I wrote a program to speed up our daily work. We used to handwrite names on file folders and generate paperwork through a mail merge Word document. Used to take up anywhere up to 2 man-hours out of the shift. My program turned this into like 15 minutes and also provided a quick means to self-audit the process. The entire team was on board with it, except one person. She flat out refused to even look at it, and just made other people do the paperwork, right up until the day she left. It was a very simple learning curve. Took someone around 10 minutes to get familiarized with the program. Every office has that one old lady that has done the same thing for 20 years lol.